Okay, I think the first order of business is for us to approve the minutes. Is that correct, Kari?
Yes.
Yes, from July 28th.
Okay.
Everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or changes?
No. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 28th with the correction that Jill Moonheron is not GIS coordinator, but GIS analyst.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Oh, I guess we have to do roll call vote. So sorry about that. Wendy, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Connie?
I vote yes.
And myself, Kari, yes. Thank you.
Okay. That's approved.
Mhm.
Okay. Are we going to go now and review the precinct information?
Yes. So Jill is here to help us, and she is willing to share her screen so that she can show you the work that we have been doing since the data files arrived last Thursday to try to keep the precinct numbers within the balance that they need to be in, which is less than 4,000, but not more than 5% deviation from the average number in each precinct. I think I said that right. Is that correct, Jill?
Yeah, I need you to enable participant screen share.
Oh, yes. Okay. It's all coming back to me. Let's see. Where do I do that? Okay, let me see if it's risky to let all participants only because that, okay, who can start? Sorry, I should have been able to do this before. I should have had this set up. Okay. That is my screen. Okay.
Let me know when you think you have it.
I think I have it.
I think you do too.
Excellent.
Are you seeing a map?
Yep.
It's connecting. So,
Yeah, I see one.
oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know when everyone can see.
I can see, Jill.
Okay.
So that's the original one?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, can you see it? Can Kari see it?
Kari?
Where'd she go?
She frozen?
I don't know. Let me see if I hit this thing if she's there. Oh, she's gone dark. I don't know where she is.
Now,
I
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear. Yeah.
It's not responding. And I don't want to close out and reconnect, but I might need to.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm going to do that. I might lose all of you in the process. Now I can see the screen. But it's still telling me it's not responding, which is really weird.
Are you still there, Kari?
I am. I'm
Yeah,
going
it's
to have
weird.
to reboot, but it's,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Oh, there you are. We can see you.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
now.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So the first thing that I'm showing is the 2010 precinct boundaries, which should look really familiar.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have also available the what the state proposed, which is this. So I'm going to flash back and forth between these for a minute, okay? So the state proposed that precinct 1 become smaller and that precinct 5 become bigger. And also that precinct 3 expand into precinct 4's former territory.
That was their second suggestion, right?
That was their most recent suggestion.
Yes.
Recent.
Yep.
And this one was, all of the views here are based on the actual data. So I'm not going to show you anything that was based on their projected stuff, which is what we've reviewed in the past.
Oh, okay.
Because those don't apply anymore. Now we have the real data.
Yes.
Right. And that's what is in this little chart on an email from August 30th, right? Those are real numbers. Just a question. I'm just looking at the email too at the same time.
I don't know the email card.
Okay. All right. I don't think they're.
So back to existing precincts, 2010. And now we have the state things. And the third view, which is the last one that I'll show you, is what Kari has put together, which differs a bit, but has some benefits. So I'm going to go back and forth between the state and Kari's view. Kari's is the one with blue outlines, and the state is the one with red outlines.
Okay.
So Kari has changed mainly precinct 1, and then as a result, a couple other moves. But precinct 1 would now include Hunt Gym right here, which is its actual polling place. So that's one of the differences between what Kari proposed and what the state had in mind. In order to make the Hunt Gym part of precinct 1, we also needed to include this triangle of census blocks in order for it to be contiguous. And then some population had to be given up in order to balance out the precincts, given this change over here by Hunt Gym. So back to the state's proposal. The state had this over here where Harvey Wheeler is, precinct 2, had that in precinct 1. But Kari's also lovely includes Harvey Wheeler in precinct 2, and it's the precinct 2 and 3 polling place.
Okay.
So
Okay.
polling places are now in their proper locations, so to speak. I mean, they're actually within the precincts which they serve. All 4 of them are. So I would say those are the main changes, but I will switch back to the state one more time. So there was a triangle over here on the right-hand side, which actually back in the existing precincts this was all part of precinct 4. The state folks, the state proposition brought it into precinct 3, and then Kari gave it back to precinct 4
Right.
in order to accommodate the population changes.
Right. Okay.
So Kari, any other significant changes you wanted to mention?
No, I think you've covered most of them. There were a few because we had to look at the population numbers. It was really hard to give everyone the convenience, you know, of proximity to their polling place, and it was so rather than trying to create sort of these centric areas around each polling place, I looked at where people had formerly been in like precinct 4. That was a big one because, you know, Ripley School is not as central as these other locations to the center of town. So if they had been in precinct 4 previously, I figured that they're already used to going to that polling location. So it's not so much the proximity as it would be the change, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Whereas in precinct 3, there were issues with people who felt that they shouldn't have to go all the way to precinct 4 from across Route 2. So we couldn't accommodate everyone on that side of Route 2, but it's a very small corner that can conveniently still get to Ripley School, as opposed to, you know, people off of Sudbury Road that really are much further away from Ripley. So I'm hoping that this is what works.
So precinct 5 would now be at Kai's Road.
Precinct 5 would be at Kai's Road.
So people aren't bypassing that voting
Right.
Precinct building to
Right.
go to Hunt. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And then precinct 1 would be at Hunt Gym.
Hunt.
So they're changing. So we are changing where the polling locations are, but it's the proximity makes more sense. And also we looked at the polling locations being within the precinct so that people who really are within walkable distance can actually walk to their polling place.
Okay. And do we have the numbers on this particular map? Is this the one, the third one? No. Is this?
Let's,
On the left are the numbers.
That's what I was going to ask. Where they balance out in terms of.
They look pretty good. Can I make this bigger? Ooh, I can.
I'll tell you, I don't have a very good view. I'm having a message that it's connecting. So I'm not actually seeing the entirety of the map. So I'm not sure what's going to be on the record. Hopefully our discussion will be on the record. And I have seen the maps before, but I can't confirm what's there as far as the numbers because I can't see it.
Yeah, I have the numbers that we did most recently, 3741.
It's precinct 1.
Precinct 2. 3822 for precinct 3. 3577 for precinct 4. And 3559 for precinct 5.
Okay. That's balanced and under the 4,000.
Under the 4,000 and within 5%.
Within 5%. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's better than what we got from the state originally.
Yeah, and here's a little higher up, there's the precinct range that we're looking to be in, the population. So all of these are within that range, as were the ones from the state, but these have other benefits as cards.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so if this looks good and this is something that we feel we want to recommend to the select board, then I would propose putting this online and letting people know that this is the proposed, new precinct boundary that the Board of Registrars recommends to the select board, who will be voting on it October 25th. So that if there's any concern or anything, and maybe we can even put that out, that they can reach out to us if there's a concern,
Right.
so that we have an opportunity, because October 25th is frightfully close to October 30th, which is the deadline to submit our re-precincting
Right,
package to the state.
right. And the general public would receive an explanation that this is based on the 2020 census.
Right.
That
Yes.
This is why we had to do this. Yes.
Yes.
So that it
Right.
wasn't just something we did willy-nilly. Like,
Right.
yeah, right.
And
Right.
I think too, pointing out maybe in the information that goes out, saying that a lot of care was taken to have precincts that if you lived within walking distance, we really, tried to make it so that you could go to the precinct. That's right. The polling
Mhm.
area right near where you live.
Right.
For most people. So
That's a good point.
yeah,
Right.
that kind
Especially
of
in precinct 1 and
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
two
particularly around the Hunt Gym. I feel sorry.
and 2.
We're
Right.
so far away, and then they
Yeah.
go.
Right. So,
Right. And it didn't, I mean, if we look at, the proximity of precinct 1 to Harvey Wheeler, it's pretty close. But you have to draw the line somewhere
Right.
finally.
Right.
So
Exactly. I
yeah.
very much understand that.
Yeah. So, but people, there's always someone who's going to be unhappy. So if we can minimize who's unhappy, and also if it's possible to know how many people are changing precincts from what they had before. Is that something, Jill, that's possible with the numbers that you have or not?
Figure that out for you.
Okay. That I was showing staff that, and that was one of the questions that came up. Arlene said, how many
Right.
people are changing precincts? And I thought that's a really good question. Because I can't look that up in our state system, because they're not going to be entering those changes until December 15th. That's their deadline to enter changes.
You want precinct changes or polling place changes?
Well, I guess both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to putting the proposed precinct boundaries online, I'm guessing you would want to just use this version, not the state's version.
Yeah, I think whatever it is that we agree to, that should be the version, because that's what we want to recommend.
Yep.
How does everyone else feel about that?
I think it would create less confusion.
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
just do that. It's not a one or the other, an A or B. It gets
Right.
confusing to
Yeah,
people.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
one option is probably the best.
So
Okay.
I would include the existing 2010 precincts, and I would include cars or all of your proposed precinct.
Yeah.
And that would be the 2 layers that people could look at online.
That's a
Okay.
great idea. Yeah, I like that.
Right. And when people see that it's fairly balanced per precinct, they'll realize that there's a reason being, that some people are changing, not everybody, but little bit of movement here and there. Precinct
Yes.
5 is going to grow probably the most, but it was the smallest to begin with, so it has some room there. So
Right.
number wise. So
Yeah.
but I think it's thought through nicely.
Great. So should we vote on a recommendation, do you think?
To put this up for
Just
observation.
to have this as the map that we recommend to the select board?
I think that would be a wonderful idea. And given the time constraints, I think that's a good idea. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should take a vote
Okay.
on it.
So I would make a motion that we recommend the precinct map dated October 6th, 2021 for select board consideration as the new precinct map.
And I
for the
second
town
that,
of Concord.
and I second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Connie says aye.
Wendy says aye.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, Kari says aye. Sorry. I'm like taking notes and forgetting what I'm doing here. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the roll call.
Thank you.
I have put up a different version of the map, which would be what we would submit to the state. It's the same data that I was just showing you that Kari had put together for the precincts. The numbers are here,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows several additional layers because these are the types of things that end up creating boundaries between blocks, between census blocks.
Oh, like
Oh.
the streets and the rivers and
Rivers,
yeah.
map, water.
So that's just a draft version of the proposed map that would go to the state.
Wonderful.
So just in a a kind of a finished format.
Okay.
Okay. Very nice.
And then the other piece is the precinct blocks. Is that something, Jill, that you can also do? Update that list?
I'm not sure what you're speaking of. Is that the
That's where the parcel, all of each block has an ID, and then the precinct that it's in is labeled.
can you show me an example of that and I'll know it, or send me an example and I will I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, that may be what the shapefile is.
Oh, hang on. So we have 309 of them. And there's the block number and the precinct.
I think that's the one then. Because that's part of the package, the package that we have to submit, that the select board has to vote on and that we have to submit contains the precinct map, the precinct block listing that correlates with it, which is the data behind the map, I think. And then the physical description of the boundaries.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking for the physical description of the boundaries is taking the 2010 physical description of the boundaries and adjusting it so that the base language is there. The streets will change, but
Right.
but there is
And will you be doing that, or would you like me to be doing that?
Hi Anne. Thank you. I'm sorry if there was difficulty in joining the meeting.
Is there anything you want to review for Anne?
I think if we can just show this map again. Yes, I think I'm not sure if that is the same, but I will send you. I'll send you the precinct block precinct
Okay.
file.
All right.
Yes. And as far as the physical description, I don't know if that's something you want to tackle, Jill, or not. I can share with you what the original file. I'll locate that and I can share it with you.
Why don't you share all that with me? And
Okay.
I'll see how far I can get, how fast. I will be
Oh,
taking
wonderful.
Friday off because this has been quite a week.
Yes, of course.
But
Okay.
I'll be back next Tuesday and ready to dive in.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. All right.
Actually, Kari, this has been kind of fun.
I'm glad you've done an enormous amount of work, and it's very much appreciated.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate your tweaking. This is really a much better map than it started out being.
It's come a long way. Yes.
Kari, can you remind me again when the select board meeting is?
The select board meeting is October 25th.
Okay.
They're doing a lot at that meeting. They're going to be voting on the re-precincting package, the map, the physical description, and the precinct boundary list, rather the block precinct listing. They're also going to be voting on the special town meeting and special town election timeline, which I can talk a little bit more about. But Anne, for your benefit, just to explain what is on the map that's on the screen, Jill Moonharn, our GIS analyst, has worked very hard to bring these lines, these precinct lines, to try to centralize the precincts around the polling places as much as possible. And so in the minutes that you got a copy of, I hope, there were two maps. The first map that the state submitted that had precinct 4 as a very long precinct crossing Route 2. And then the second map had Route 2 as sort of the dividing line for precincts, especially precincts 3 and 4. And then what this is tweaking the numbers to make sure that we have precinct 1's polling location physically located within the boundaries of precinct 1, so that people who live close by can walk there. And the same for precincts 2 and 3. Harvey Wheeler Community Center in the second map was in precinct 1 formerly. And so we moved some of the blocks around to allow Harvey Wheeler Community Center to be within precinct 2, so that precincts 2 and 3 can continue voting in their precinct. And so this map and the corresponding population does satisfy the requirement that the population of each precinct, of any precinct, not exceed 4,000 and be within 5% of the average population number for each precinct.
Very good.
And so we actually took a vote to accept or to recommend this precinct map to the select board. And we'll be bringing this to their meeting on October 25th. And we will also post this to the web with an explanation of how we came to dividing the precincts as they appear, and inviting people who have any feedback to offer, so that if there's any question prior to the select board meeting, we're not faced with the select board not able to vote, because we have to submit this packet to the to the state, back to the state by October 30th. So we have 5 days between the select board vote and when it's submitted. We only got this data last Thursday, so we just haven't had, there just isn't more time than what we have for this. So we can call it a public input period if anyone wants to comment on it, and then we'll be ready to present. Do you have any questions, Anne?
Hear me, is that true? Oh, maybe you can hear me now.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I wanted to know, are we concerned with how many people, how many voters are affected by needing to change their polling places? And does that traditionally a problem? Or how is that managed?
So the notice to voters will go out with the census. It will actually go out. I will send a newsletter out before the census goes out, because it's going to go out a little late this year because of the time that it's going to take the state to update our central voter information registry. So we'll be sending 2 notices out. A lot of the precincts will be changing. Jill is going to give us the numbers of how many people will have different precincts and how many people will have different polling locations. And will it be a problem? You know, people, what we heard over the last 10 years, I would say, is that people don't like to drive past a polling place to get to their own polling place. So they don't like when they're particularly far. But because of the location of the polling locations, some people are still going to have to do that. So hopefully it's not too much of a problem, which is why we wanted the polling location certainly to be within the precinct that would allow people to walk to them.
Sure.
So that was one complaint that we've had. Another is that people who were formerly in precinct 4, but across from Route 2, couldn't go to Harvey Wheeler to vote, or to 2 other polling locations that they would pass in order to get to their polling location. So keeping them in precinct 3 or moving them to precinct 3 allows them hopefully better access to their polling place. So those were the reasons for moving some of the boundary lines.
Great. And it sounds like everyone is notified of their changes.
Yes, everyone will be notified of their changes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And with, you know, if early voting continues past December 15th, then that doesn't make as much difference because early voting is in one location. So, you know, it may be less of a problem in the future anyway, depending on the action of the legislature. And speaking of voting, we do have a special town meeting and special election early next year for the middle school. So the select board will be voting on the timeline. I think that it will be on the 25th and not the 18th, but if there's a change, I will let you know. The proposed dates are January 20th for the special town meeting, and then February 3rd for the special town election. Those are both Thursdays. And so as soon as that vote is taken, I want to send out a notice about the election, which is, it's a little tricky because I want to let people know who may be traveling for the winter in case they want to vote absentee and they need to apply first. So if people leave and they don't know that there's an election happening, how do we reach them? And then the other thing, of course, is the precinct lines that are finally approved by the state and then are updated in our central voter registry is going to be later. That date is going to be December 15th, which is later than when we typically send out the data file for the census mailing. So if the census mailing doesn't reach people till a month later, let's say between January 1st and the 15th, and there's a town meeting January 20th and then an election February 3rd, we're not giving people enough notice. So December 15th is the date that I will have the data of who is in what precinct. And so December 16th, I want to do a mailing.
Okay.
So that people people know as soon as possible. They'll also get a notice with the census, but I want to get the word out to every household that precincts are changing.
Yes.
So, and any other suggestions of how to get the notice out? There's always some confusion, you know, as far as which precincts people are in after a federal census, because almost always there are precinct lines that have to be redrawn. But we'll try to minimize that with notice.
Is there a way that people who remember getting this mail around holiday time but don't remember what they did with it would be able to go online at Concord, Concord Town Government Online to check on where they fall, or is that crazy? That might be just crazy impossible. I don't know.
No, well, the state, it may be something that the state will do for us, because they have done that for federal elections and state elections, where you can see what your who your elected officials are and what your precinct is. It drills down to that level and what your polling location is, because they're pulling from the same central voter registry that we are inputting voter registrations into. So
Well,
that's a really good
If we
suggestion.
have a chance to request that, that sure would be, I think, helpful to people.
I will send an email today.
I mean, right now you can click on check your polling location and you just put in your street number and your street name and, you know, basically your address, and it comes back and tells you where, you know, it'll tell
Okay,
me.
so if
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that, Connie.
Yeah. Because I had looked at it recently for something else, and I thought it would bring up this map, and no, it actually just comes in and says, no, this is where you want to go. Okay. Yeah.
so that's reflective of our central voter registry. So we will definitely have that URL that gets people there. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it brings you to a state website.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
And on that same page, there's an embedded map which allows you to view this map or the earlier version of this map and look for your address that way as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll be updating that.
Yes, that is Jill's handiwork. That's great. Thank you, Jill.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Jill.
So we can also put a QR code onto the notice that gets people right to that page. Okay. I'm just writing these things down.
And I am too. I put a little action item list over here on the screen for
Yes.
myself. So if there's anything I missed, let me know.
Great.
Yes.
Are there any other comments or changes?
This is great. And I think it's a great thing that we're going to be able to post it. It'll take, you know, it's not so drastic that, you know, in a lot of ways, but I think it will give people a sense of, to anticipate, yes, this is coming. So they'll pay more attention, perhaps. when, if they're being reassigned or whatever. So it's,
Right.
it's good. It's good for discussion, and somebody to view it, and people will feel informed. It's on the site.
Great. I should also mention, just regarding the October 25th meeting, I will also have about 80 election workers to be reappointed, which is later than it should be, but because we didn't have any elections scheduled for this fall, I've taken advantage of the time, and they will certainly be in place before the early elections in 2022.
Okay.
And if there are any individuals that you have heard who might be interested in working at the polls, by all means, let me know. And there's an application form right on our webpage that people can fill out and submit.
Do people have to re-up every election?
Every
Just
year,
Every
it's
year.
every year renewal.
I'm going to demonstrate my real naivete to ask you whether people at the prisoners vote. I'm remembering that a prisoner was a candidate for selectman some time ago, but I don't know whether they can vote.
Yes, that is a really good question, and that is something that can no longer happen unless the person who is incarcerated actually resided in the town before his stay at the prison,
Right.
or her
And
stay.
prisoners do not vote, is that correct?
They can vote depending on what they're in prison for, the type of charge, but they would vote from their last residence before entering incarceration. So they don't automatically become a resident.
Right. And they don't
by
impact elections particularly then.
What's that?
They don't impact our election.
No, they are included as a separate group for the federal census. So their numbers are counted.
Yeah.
And their numbers are counted in Concord as a prison population in Concord. And their numbers do affect the precincts for that reason. But they are not actually voters unless they lived in Concord before they were incarcerated in Concord.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other comments?
I imagine that people who live in facilities for the elderly or infirm in some way can vote by mail or absentee ballot. Is that just generally possible?
Yes, absentee voting
I
is.
don't know so much, so I'm not just asking all these.
No,
questions.
I'm glad you're asking. So absentee voting is available for anyone who will be out of town, is unable to get to the polls because of health reason or religious reason, or is incarcerated but otherwise resides in town. Vote by mail is something that is available through December 15th. And depending on what the legislation does, it may or may not be available next year for local elections, because that was emergency legislation that allowed that to be in place. I know that the Elections Division is working with the legislature to see if they can extend vote by mail through June 30th of next year until they decide what to do on a permanent basis if they're not able to decide by, before December 15th. But there's also a provision that allows any permanently disabled voters to automatically receive absentee ballot applications at the beginning of each year and before each election. So So for that, we just need a note from the doctor stating that this person is not able to get to the polls, and that puts them on the list, and then we
Mhm.
automatically mail those out. So
Carrie-
anything for the voters.
Corey, if I recall, when I first started as a registrar, are we allowed as registrars to bring a vote upon request of somebody who cannot get to the polls? Are we allowed to drop them a ballot? I mean,
That is only if someone enters a facility, a hospital,
right,
or during COVID is self-isolating
okay, yes,
and unable, and that is, I believe, 7 days before. Actually, that might, no, I'm trying to think now if that was 7 days or 4 days. I think that's 7 days before.
okay,
If in other words, if they were hospitalized up to 7 days before, then they're entitled to have a hand-delivered absentee ballot.
that's what I remember, okay. Absentee
Yes.
ballot, right, okay,
Mhm.
very good.
Interesting.
Yeah, the deadline to apply for an absentee or early voted ballot by mail is 7 days before the election. So with the Thursday election, that, or rather the 4th business day before the election. So with a Thursday election, that is Friday. So the benefit of a Thursday election is with that Friday cutoff, there's still 3 days the following week to vote absentee in person.
Okay. So for instance, February 3rd is a Thursday. I see.
Right.
Okay. As is the 20th. Good. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
All right. Lots of good information here today.
Yes, thank you, Jill, very much for all the work that you've done.
Yes, thank you, Jill.
You're very welcome. I feel like I'm helping democracy.
That's great.
I think that's all that I have.
I know, I think we've covered everything on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, any other business to discuss? Anyone?
Should we schedule a meeting before the 25th or just see if we have any input?
That might be good if there's public input or response or after the posting of this.
Yeah. Okay. So I can reach out to you all with in maybe in a week or two, and also with the physical description too, if anyone wants to review it. I think it's good to have a few pairs of eyes looking at that.
Okay, excellent.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've completed our business. Okay,
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
all those in favor?
Roll call. Wendy,
Wendy, aye.
Anne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Connie
Aye.
and Kari, I as well. Thank you all.
Thank you.